What's good, everybody? This episode of the podcast is sponsored by DistroKid. They are the go-to for digital music distribution and the easiest way for musicians to get their music onto Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, TikTok, YouTube, and more. They offer unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of their earnings, getting your music onto platforms and into stores 10 to 20 times faster than any other distributor. They help with cover song clearance, automatic splits, and they offer all kinds of tools and templates to help you get the most visibility for your releases. I dig this company and appreciate their business model that offers more features and tools than any other distributor while doing it at the most affordable price for solo artists, bands, DJs, studio artists, and any other creators that are making music or producing music in their home, and they offer label services as well. They've got 3 different tiers that they offer to creators that start as low as $22.99 a year. That's just $1.92 a month. And even their top tier is only $7.50 per month. And the best part about DistroKid sponsoring the podcast is they are offering Dan Cable Presents listeners 30% off their first year of service with DistroKid, making their affordable prices even cheaper for you. I will put that discount link in the episode notes. It will also be in my Instagram bio. Big shout out to DistroKid for sponsoring this podcast for more than 3 years now. Much appreciated. Now let's get into the episode.
Look down at the
What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Dan Cable Presents podcast. Thank you for tuning into the program once again. If this is your first time listening, thanks for checking out the show. You can find fresh episodes coming at you on Tuesdays. And if you want to help support this thing in a free way, you can do so by clicking subscribe on iTunes and clicking write a review. And you give the podcast 5 stars. You say a few nice words, and I'll be damned if that helps shoot that thing right up into the tops of those iTunes charts, giving it more visibility on the national and international levels, helping strangers find the podcast. Just a great way to contribute to the growth and sustainability of this thing. As always, appreciate the hell out of all the folks who've taken the time to do so. If you're not listening on Apple, just hit like, follow, subscribe wherever you are listening from. If you're watching on YouTube, you can hit subscribe there, and please tell a friend about the cast if you're enjoying this thing. Hope everybody is doing well out there, keeping your head above the water. This week on the podcast, episode 457, Jon Wiley, the head chef, owner, and operator of Scorfana, a restaurant inside of the 1905, a jazz club here in Portland, Oregon, over in the Mississippi neighborhood that is cranking out some of my favorite pizza in the city. Just some banging slices coming out of the kitchen to enjoy while you are watching music happen. And Jon is just such a sweet dude, and I had such a great hang with him and getting to know him and getting to hear about his journey from line cook to owner-operator of Scorfana. The discipline it takes to be consistent with cooking, let alone running an operation, is very next level. And then to do it well is just, I think, this whole other thing that people really underestimate if they've never been in those types of environments. And this dude just seems to have the respect of the folks who are working for him, and also the patrons and the players of the 1905. I ran a pizza place for several years back in California, and my first job when I moved to Portland was working the line at Pizzicato, which really exposed me to a different level of cooking and thought that goes into recipes and making things from scratch. And I'm just really fascinated by the process. And as mentioned in this episode, things and shows like Chef's Table, where you get to, see the deep dive on a chef's passion. So it's been such a pleasure to have people like Jon on the podcast as of late, to hear about the craft that goes into making a successful restaurant, and starting my Tuna Boy account and tapping into this niche of reviewing tuna sandwiches has really opened up the door to getting to talk to more folks in the restaurant world, and I'm just super grateful for it. I enjoy these conversations just as much as getting to talk music with people, and there just seems to be a different level of accessibility for listeners when it comes to these episodes. So thanks for tuning in, and big thanks to Jon for jumping on the mics with me. I know in the past this show has been primarily geared towards conversations with musicians and music focused things, but I am stoked on the way that things have broadened this past year or so. So shout out to the 1905 for being a great place to see live music. Just a couple things that are on my radar as far as their upcoming calendar. November 8th, The Late Show, the 10 p.m. show, is with former guest of the cast, Machado Machiga. November 13th, Cyrus Napapor will be there with a quartet doing the 6:30 and 8:30 show. Really got to get that dude on the cast. Just a killer player. And then on November 20th, piano player Carrie Pulitzer will be there doing the 6:30 and 8:30 slot. And the Charlie Brown III annual Christmas show is on Saturday, December 13th. All the links for Scorfana and the 1905 will be in the episode notes. And with all that, we are going to get into this thing. Hope you enjoy episode 457 with Jon Wiley of Scorfana. Now let's do the damn thing.
All right, Jon. You ready to do the thing?
Yeah, man.
How are you feeling?
Good. I've watched a lot of these, and everyone looks so laid back and comfortable in these chairs.
Yeah.
And I kind of watch it sometimes. I'm like, he might be drugging these people because everyone's cashed out. And now I get it.
They're
these
pretty
chairs,
comfy.
Exactly. I'm feeling comfy, excited, ready to go.
Good.
Yeah,
awesome.
Man.
Well, I'm excited to have you here.
Thank you.
I've been enjoying your food a lot every time I go to the 1905.
Thank you,
and
man.
Just like our like you said when you got here, like we don't really know each other that well, but all of my interactions with you have been so incredibly like warm.
Cool.
And,
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just been so nice, and everybody that plays at 1905 like has nothing but nice things to say about you and the food that's coming out of the kitchen. So it's a pleasure to have you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I am a listener. I like this content.
That's
so
cool.
This is big for me. This is going to be weird. I'm going to like kind of just be going about my life, and then this will drop, and I'll be like, oh no, this one is me.
You're going to be in the feed. Yeah.
It's like, I can't listen to this one today.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited to just like, learn how you've gotten to where you are with the spot. So I guess we'll just kind of, start with laying some foundation. Like, talk to me about where did you grow up, and like where'd the initial spark come for wanting to cook food?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I grew up in a small town called Linden, Washington, outside of Bellingham.
Okay.
It's not a cool place. It's a relatively conservative, rural sort of farm town situation, but it's very close to Bellingham, which is a much more dynamic, kind of college plus the farmers plus the, the maritime thing. It's a much more dynamic place. And I was kind of in like a home in between the two spaces physically. So I had just a desire to leave like most of the time that I was there, especially in sort of early adolescence. And so when I was 18, I moved here to go to school. And this was just like the craziest place to me. It was like, in my mind at the time, the opposite end of the stick, you know,
Yeah.
from where I was at. And like it kind of was for me when I dropped in. I had like Chinese food for the first time when I was 19, and like Indian food for the first time. Like, you know, this just the things that I think a general metropolis has were radically different to me. So I loved this city immediately.
So was there not like a lot of you going to visit Seattle then? That being like the closest big city?
We were between, Seattle and Vancouver. There was a bit, you know, but not a lot of it was, especially when I was maybe getting into a more adolescent age. It wasn't sort of me like on the weekends going down to see shows and shit. Like it really was, you know, I was maybe going with my family when I was younger or something, you know, like pointing at the Space Needle and shit.
Okay.
You know, so there was some travel and some stuff, but for the most part, coming to this city was like, oh, holy fuck. People live life in a way that I am radically unfamiliar with. And you know, this is like, you know, you wouldn't necessarily describe this city as like a wildly diverse place, but for me immediately I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Music and food and what I'm seeing here immediately are crazy.
Yeah, maybe not culturally diverse, but
Right, man.
rich with artistic diversity.
Absolutely.
Right? Like in our food scene.
Dude, totally.
Is insane here, especially for being like a smaller metropolitan city. Like,
yes, yeah, I found that to be the case immediately. And I had no interest in food and cooking really. I liked food. I liked eating, and I liked eating in excess, you know. And like I loved the project in general, but like cooking, I was struggling to cook for myself.
Yeah.
You know. Immediately, like just not having my mother around was a problem. Like for my nutrition, you know.
You weren't going to college for culinary school?
Absolutely not, no. And I don't really know what I was going for, to be honest. I got out of there at some point, but just barely, you know. And but I started cooking at like this. Well, I started working at this pizzeria that was like 3 blocks from my house. I was working just kind of odd jobs, minimum wage stuff. It was like at the YMCA and like just goofy shit.
Yeah.
And so this was just another goofy thing for me. It was a Craigslist posting, and it just checked every box of all of my needs at the time, which were like pizza, beer, and money to live somewhere.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is great. I like this, you know? And I was there for about a year, and it was a sweet spot. The guy like behind the counter had this sort of Squidward type of vibe, just, you know, upset, you know, dreary dude. And he would like, you know, this was pre-pandemic, but he would like go to tables after like big parties and take all the pitchers of beer and pour them into like one big pitcher and hide it in the walk-in. And then he'd be like, hey dude, we got a pitcher from that last table back there. And then we'd go back there and share the pitcher where there was no cameras in the walk-in, you know, and come out and like, oh.
Just this mixed pitcher, too.
Oh, my God, exactly. Just everything that you could imagine. It was horrifying.
Like you're back there playing King's Cup.
It was the best. It was like, oh, this is it. Like, I love this shit. And I was there for about a year, and I was coming to the end of the time there for me, and I was like, okay, I need to do something else. And so I had no intention of continuing to do any food stuff. And then I got back on Craigslist, and there was a posting for a pizza cook at a jazz club. And this is like 2017, 2018. And it was the 1905.
Okay.
And so I like answered it, ended up on that team over there, and then was just like completely enamored by the space, by the music, and there were professional, like career people working there at the time, like behind the bar and on the floor and in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that was totally new to me.
So I never experienced that era of the 1905.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I only started going to the 1905. I think my first time was earlier this year when Integer played.
Sick. Okay.
It's the first time I'd been. So when you started working there, was the kitchen actually a part of the 1905 and not like these two different entities as it is now?
Yes. Yeah. It was one business. And I don't exactly I wasn't there in the initial opening couple of months or about a year or so. And like during that time, from what I understand, that was the kitchen was the goal. It was like this guy trying to open a pizzeria, and he had buddies who played jazz, and he was like, oh, it'd be sick, you know, if we had some kind of some music happening here at the same time. And then the dial just switched pretty quickly there for them. And they were like, oh, this is awesome. Like the music is important. People are really showing up for this. This is what we should be doing.
Yeah.
And so that transition happened right about when I was showing up. It was like a club when I showed up. The first day I was there was music playing, and there was 2 shows, and you know, they started booking the late nights, and they were 7 days a week and shit. They were going for it. So the pizza thing happening in the background was no longer like what they were trying to do initially. It was just the thing that just had to keep working to, you know, feed the people and keep the liquor moving. But yeah, there were pros there. I just like had never met someone who was like a career restaurant person.
Yeah.
And like the guy managing the kitchen at the time, his name was Sam McPherson, and he brought like a knife from his house, you know, and I was like, dude, there's knives here, bro. You're Joe. That's so dumb. And he was awesome. And he quit for this sweet job up in Washington, this like kind of corporate gig at a casino. And it was like a salary job with health benefits and stuff. And I was like, whoa, like this is a real thing you can do. The bartender had like kids and a family and stuff. And I was like, whoa, I thought this was like kind of a burnout thing to do, or something you needed to like go to school for and like, you know, be serious and shit about. But there's this whole lane in the middle that I had no idea about. That was like, you know, you kind of just keep working and trying new things and going to new places and learning on the job, and it rewards you. That was totally new to me there. And so yeah, I did about another year there, and then was like, okay, I'm going to take this serious. You know, I'm going to leave this in the rearview mirror and like go do food. And I did for quite a while.
What did that like look like for you when you I don't know, when that switch flipped and you're like, I'm going to take this serious?
Yeah.
So like, what were your goals when you left?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know if I was super evaluated. I was like 21, probably 22. And, you know, school was the timeline was coming to an end. And I was like, oh no, you know, like we need some structure. And so there was a lot of media at the time, like great kind of romantic food media that was kind of coming, like the Chef's Table kind of bullshit was happening, like you know, television that was really romanticizing the artistry of what was going on. And I was like, okay, we're going there. I'm not exactly sure how to get there, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do this thing where it feels like, you know, people are really improvising with this skill set. So I just try to take off, head that direction.
You're like pretty inspired by watching things like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just watching some Chef's Table to get in gear, you know, like I was watching I realized that I never finished the pizza specific series on Chef's Table.
The episode is like, it'll go down in the Hall of Fame of like the farm to table. It's perfect. It's a great thing, you know.
I love watching that stuff. I love getting to see, you know, I do think that they're, you know, it's probably not like this for everybody, but it really is an art for so many people.
It's true. Yeah.
Making food and just like the energy that they put into it is so next level. Dude. And so inspiring and
big time.
To see that passion like in the kitchen and then come out on the plate and how much they care seems very special.
Yeah, I agree. And that was the hook. And then I just was swindled by that hook, you know. It's like, then for the next like 6 years, you know, I'm just like in a basement, you know, like covered in flour, like peeling potatoes as fast as I can, just getting fucking screamed at. And I'm like, oh no, like what did I do? This was a horrible decision, you know.
So did you just take like other line cook jobs after leaving just to like get more experience?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's something that's like, it's less in vogue now. People got in a lot of legal trouble for it as we started to kind of crack down the way that labor works in restaurants. But you used to just be able to kind of like, it was called a stagiaire, you know what I'm talking about? You would just like roll up to a spot and be like, hey, I am willing to do this for free in exchange for the ability to just figure out what the fuck is going on. And there were basically everyone said yes, especially I think when I was getting into it, it was maybe the end of that period of time. Some people would be like, I'm sorry, we need you to like get on the books
Yeah.
legally. We can't have you slip and fall or whatever in the space. But more places than not, we're like, yeah, like, cool, absolutely. We're understaffed. We're freaking out. Like, join the team. So I started to do a decent amount of that. And then the first place I worked right after the 1905 was, I was a little nervous about trying to get into larger, like immediately joining a like complex French restaurant. I'd put pepperonis on pizza for the last 2 years. I was stressed. And there was a guy who runs Taste Bud in Multnomah Village, a really wonderful pizzeria, kind of farm to table operation as well, named Mark Dockstadter. And he was working with Freeland Spirits, just under the Montgomery Park building. And he put this little goofy, like, food truck type thing outside of their space to make them compliant with the OLCC requirement for serving food to serve liquor. And he was working there alone, and he's like, I need somebody else in there. And he's a little bit of a giant in the community. He's physically huge. He's an amazingly tall, giant man, but also he's like a serious dude. And so, like, rolling up to this place was just remarkable for me. It was just me and him, and he'd work the mornings, and we'd have like a couple of hours of transition, and then I would work the evening. And it was on paper a horrible job. It was very slow. I was outside, and there was one wood-fired oven in the corner of this box, basically. And so it was the only heat source, but it also produced a meaningful amount of smoke because it was relatively poorly built.
Yeah.
And so you had to choose. It was like, do you want to asphyxiate yourself but be warm, or be freezing and breathe, you know? So it sucked. But he was so cool, and he was really into music, and especially like pretty heavy stuff, but also experimental sound and some jazz. But he loved like old kind of paperback floppy cookbook stuff that, like, you know, communities were printing for each other and, like, you know, sharing at the Grange Hall or like the church and shit, you know, like just like community pass along things. So he had stacks and stacks of them, and he had old spoons and stuff, and we were making this really weirdly elegant preparation of or service of raclette, this like kind of melted cheese, and it was inside this gorgeous little copper dish that he'd found a bunch of. We threw them in the oven, and they, like, you know, melted, and we put the honey and the thyme on it, and we served it with the bread that was made from the grains that they were making the liquor with. Like, it was gorgeous, you know?
Yeah.
But it was so shit at the same time, and like I wasn't learning anything. I'd had, you know, 2 hours with him a day basically, and so I had like a hard conversation. Was like, hey, I'm sorry, I want to go for this for real. And he was sad, you know, and I really haven't kept up with him since, but he was an amazing dude. And after that, I went nuts. It was just a full-time and a part-time, and then like maybe another brunch shift or some other stuff, and the stages, and like just years after that of, like, you know, any work is good work.
Yeah,
you know, was the thought at the time.
What do you feel like you weren't learning that you wanted to learn maybe in that spot? Was it just because of the volume of business you weren't learning, or just the actual concept of what was happening, the food that was being made wasn't teaching you enough?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was mostly just time with him, to be honest. If I was alone in that truck with him the whole time doing the stuff, it would have been great if we were both there together. I mean, he was huge. It was a tiny truck. It would have been, and we couldn't breathe, you know, it would have sucked, but he was fantastic.
But you needed and desired somebody to like learn from, like, and spend time with and really like absorb their knowledge kind of thing.
Big time. Like, food is just such an idiosyncratic thing. Like every week or every, you know, depending on the part of the season, there's just more and more and more product all the time. And when you're working through those seasons as a young person and someone hands you, like, you know, cardoons, you're like, well, what the fuck? This looks this is a weird vegetable. Like, I don't know how to eat this. And they're like, oh.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, exactly.
What is that?
Exactly. It's like a goofy long fucking, it looks kind of like celery, but you have to braise it for a really long time, whatever. All right. Shit, there's so much stuff. And like, honestly, like leeks, I didn't, like everything, I was just like, I don't know how any of this works. Like, I need to figure this out. And the cookbook is great. Like, and I think later in my career, I started to read a lot more, but early on, it was French to me, like literally and figuratively, but I was like, I just can't fucking figure out what this is. Like, I don't understand. And then even if you practice something at your house, sometimes like from a book, you might get to a finale with the product and be staring at it and be tasting it and be like, okay, well, this is good, I think, but like, is this it? Like, did I do this? It's such an ethereal thing that's hard to like kind of, figure out if you've gotten there or not. And so at some level, I felt like I really needed people who'd been there to kind of sign off on the project a bit and be like, this is how we do it. Like community support of like, this is how we've done it. This is what they would like.
Yeah. You're like meeting a standard.
Totally. Yeah. And the diet that I had up until this point did not include a decent amount of this. And so a meaningful amount of this was esoteric and odd to me. And so, yeah, the standard was completely foreign initially. So after that gig, it was just about people that I thought had that stamp to some degree.
Yeah.
And this was a great city to do that in.
Who were maybe some of these people that had a really big impact in maybe the way that you operate now, or like gave you the confidence to, be in the spot that you're at now?
Yeah, it is a long list of names, to be honest. There was a ton. This city like had maybe like, and this is before my time obviously, but like 2005 to like maybe 2015 or something, like early 2000s, there was a big farm to table movement in the city that was really attractive to people, especially from California, Northern California, who were like kind of getting priced out of the ability to do that in that area. Or if they could make it work, they certainly couldn't buy a fucking house and start a family or whatever in the city, in Berkeley or whatever even. And like, it didn't work. But up here, it worked. Like you could do it. We had a dining public that was interested in eating shit like this. The farming was really remarkable. Access to seafood was still pretty decent, even though we're pretty inland. Like it worked out here. And so people were moving up to like this place being like, oh, it's the joint. This can work here,
And then we had the food cart boom where you could, really maybe test your concept before you open a brick and mortar.
Exactly.
Or just be a successful food cart.
Totally. Yep. Yeah. The avenue to success, or the ability to like make your dream work in this city was real. And so that lots of people moved up. And so the amount of like, there were some chefs that I worked for early on who like, if I was in San Francisco trying to work with them, it would have been decades of work for me to even get under the same roof as some of those people.
Yeah.
And then in Portland, Oregon, they're kind of on the back end of this career, and there's just a posting online for a line cook, and a week later you're just working a full station of sauces and proteins and vegetables and garnish directly next to that person.
Yeah.
Who has done that at a Michelin level for decades in their own right, who are now doing it in this city, and who are doing it with you, and either, in different types of ways, educating, sometimes in, thoughtful, meaningful, fashions, and sometimes in brutish ways.
Yeah.
But still, it's the standard regardless. It's just like, oh, this person does know. So the first person was a guy named Greg Smith at the Noble Rot.
Yes.
I met my girlfriend there working, and then I met Greg there. Two important people of different levels of importance to me now. But
that's like so that was that your entry into like fine dining?
Fine farm to table stuff. Yeah, absolutely. They had a garden on the roof.
Yeah.
It was remarkable. I rolled in there and like was just like, I'll do anything for you. I'll garden up here. I got an environmental degree. I'll like do anything. And they were like, great. They stuck me up in the garden for a while. And then they like, at some point brought me down to the kitchen, and it was goofy. And then they had some turnover, and then Greg showed up, and he was great. He loved charcuterie and like sort of classic stuff. He was running Grain and Gristle for a while.
Yeah.
And then he left, came over, brought a bunch of his team, and he was the first guy like really kind of showing me what was happening and how the scene worked. And we were working through the seasons there, and he was this kind of sort of a maximalist in the farm to table thing. A lot of that ideology is sort of like, reserved, trying to be kind to this product, like don't overwork this thing. He was doing that, but also just like everything. It was like, fuck it, we're going to put this on top of this on top. But it was all this elegant shit that was still from the region and local shit, but he was just going nuts with it. And I thought he was great. And he was a great early mentor for me. He was the first guy. And then there was just so many. But maybe the last dude was a guy named Lucian Prelwitz. He was in Northern California for a long time, working for those people you're watching on Chef's Table and shit. And then up here, he was at Ned Ludd, and then he was a CDC at Beast for a really long time. And then he started over at Lemuel. And the time at Lemuel was just really wonderful. I got the opportunity to work for him over there as a line cook and then eventually as a sous chef. And he was kind of the kind of final notes for me of that huge period of time. I didn't realize it at the time that was probably close to the end of that period for me, but he was just really high level. The way he thought about flavor was astounding. He was a musician. He was a classically trained trumpet player. And so his language was just gorgeous. It had musical language and this high level culinary language and this farm to table thing from Northern California, but also this real straight French thing. He was at the laundry for a bit. And so he just, everything, I just bought it all, dude.
Yeah.
And so everything that was happening was Bible to me. And it was such a high volume restaurant doing such wonderful food. He would call it like short order fine dining. And so there was no room for the frill kind of bullshit, the things that we like sort of use sometimes in the kitchen to denote the quality of what we're doing back there, the making sure everything's all lined up and whatever. It was all very important to him, but it at some point started to kind of unravel, and the things that were critical became really clear on Friday night, It was like, we need a lot on these tables. You need 10 mussels, 3 steak, 5 fish. And you're like, oh, and it was wonderful. That was the last guy. But there's truthfully too many to name. It's a big city, man.
When you started getting in those environments, like you're working at Noble Rot and the Lemuel stuff, what was your level of comfortability? Like, were you facing a lot of like imposter syndrome because you didn't have like some culinary background necessarily? You've obviously you put in some time into some of these other places and you got some experience, but like, what was that level of like intimidation for you, or were you like, have you always been like pretty cool about keeping your composure and not breaking down under that pressure?
Oh, hell no. I mean, like, especially at the Noble Rot early on, before Greg showed up, it was a little bit more of a tense environment. And there were most days I'd go home and just sit in the shower, like on the ground and be like, this is bad. Like, you're unbelievably bad at what you do. And I think that some level of that shame was the entire experience, Like, I think that a lot of the things that I'm good at now came from just being really reamed on being horrible at. And not necessarily someone like, providing the details, but me feeling like we need to sort this out immediately, sort of like energy. There was a meaningful amount of discomfort the whole time. And even that sous role, for example, like I ended up eventually being his sous. There were multiple other cooks on that team who were significantly better cooks than I was at the time. And so standing in that position on the first couple of days, you're like, oh no, I'm going to try to tell that guy to, I'm going to assign him tasks today. Yeah. No way. Like, this is horrifying. But at some point it's just like there's just too much to do to really be in your head. Like you kind of start sinking or swimming quickly. And I just kept saying yes to like the next responsibility basically. And just being like, well, either we make it or we don't, and we start again,
I don't know. Is a part of it like accepting that you're going to make mistakes?
Yeah.
Because it just feels like you're doing this thing over and over and you're just not going to get it right every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or like, did you feel like with some of the people that maybe made a bigger impact on you would like allow you to make mistakes? Obviously not like encouraging that, but like maybe their response to the mistakes was different.
Yes. Yeah. The culture definitely was under pretty serious scrutiny during that period of my life. Like there were multiple points, where people were getting called out for sort of how they were involved in education, or I mean, how they were not involved in education, how they were involved in managing this team. Yeah. And I watched people that I knew and had worked for and had been, in intense environments with, just, make the real list of like this, this is poor business practice. And I was talking to Garrett Baxter recently, a bass player in the city, and he was talking about sort of not quite the same, but a similar version of sort of jazz education. And then I sometimes like stray away from making the comparisons, but like he was talking about how some of those early educators that he'd had or heard stories that he'd heard about or whatever that were relatively abusive sort of environments, he just described as lazy, you know. And I that's exactly how I really think about that as well now, is like, you know, it's pretty easy to identify when things are going wrong. And then it's pretty easy to be to fix that situation with anger. It's maybe the easiest. And it's relatively difficult to sort of process and evaluate and then be like, okay, there's you know, incongruencies. How do we get congruent again in a tactful, normal, thoughtful human way under stress?
Yeah. Like it's easy to intimidate with anger, right? Like to just be fucking livid at somebody and make them scared.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like as far as like the jazz thing, it's kind of like that Whiplash shit, like that movie.
Right.
Of where you just have this like crazy intense teacher and like, it's like, some people I guess maybe respond to that well, and it like shakes them so much that they do want to like strive for perfection, but like not for everyone.
Totally. And it has worked, like, you know, it does work, but it's just the laziest way to do it. And if you're trying to, you know, get things done every day and to retain staff and to create talented people down the line, like Lucian was he was great. He did allow me to make mistakes there a lot. I would come in the morning, get the fish order, and I was just a horrible fish butcher at this fucking French fish restaurant, you know? And I'd just be there in the morning and just leave so much cash on the carcass of this fish in the morning, and like, you know, just immediately try to get it in the stock pot for fumet like as fast as possible and like, you know, scrape it off, you know. But he was great. He was very relaxed. And I'd say of that team that I remember there, maybe of those 4 or 5 people who were there, but especially when I was the Sioux, almost all those people have done really remarkable projects in the couple of years since. I think that a lot of us there were like, oh, this was huge for us. And I still cook his stuff. You ate a vinaigrette that was like relatively Lucian inspired cooking that I remember making there, that
chicory salad.
Yeah, a meat-based vinaigrette.
Dude,
we used to joke about that. Hell yeah,
it was
dude,
so
I love
good.
that. Yeah, thank Lucian Prowitz. He's in Indiana now. Son of a bitch, left town. A lot of those kids after that period of time, I think, just felt, you know, and a lot of those people have been working high-level work in different cities and different places. And I think that there was a component of the way that he led that space that was like, oh, maybe we have a bag, like maybe our repertoire is useful, maybe we can do something. So now I'm managing a small team of people, and that's on the brain all the time. It's just like, you know, the way you conduct yourself in this space is important, not just for the things that are happening here today, but the long term, you know. I've always
respected the people that can like really maintain their composure while leading a team, you know. Like I've like done such a different level of like cooking than you have, but like I definitely, you know, I grew up managing a pizza place and working in a pizza place for like 8 years. Like my late teens, early 20s was all working at this pizza place, and like the guy who ran it just was you know, the owner. He was just a pretty quiet guy, you know. You could definitely like upset him, but like it was like you never knew that he was panicking, you know. When it got shitty and it got hard and it got busy, he was still just locked in, and like I just wanted to like embody that. And like, because once you see the person who is leading the operation fucking freaking out, right, like it's not good for
totally
that shit's it's so infectious.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say infectious. Absolutely. Watching somebody explode is like, okay, well, I guess we're exploding tonight. You know? And then if that guy's gone, you know, and I keep using gendered language I feel bad about, but if that person's gone, then like, you know, and you're there the next day and you are the boss, that's the script. Like the day before is the script. Like that's now what we do. So you get in a spot where you're stressed out. It's like, well, I know exactly what to do. It's freak out, you know, and that's horrid. So it is infectious, and you know, the culture's changing a bit, but you know, I received a bit of it at the front end of the time. And, you know, it's in there every once in a while. I feel it. And you just got to think about it and deal with it in the moment. But yeah, every time you stop it, it's a better world, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how you don't want to be treated and how you don't want to treat the people that are working for you, I would imagine.
Big time. And I just run such a casual operation now that like it would be hilarious if I was back there, you know, like reaming kids like there's too many pepperonis. Like, what are we doing?
Incredible,
you know?
dude. Incredible.
It's just so lighthearted that it just makes no sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's at this point, I just feel like in the rear view mirror for me.
Yeah. So what happens after Lamoule? Like how do we get to where we're at, where you open up Scorfana inside of the 1905 and you're like, what brings you back to pizza?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Roundabout. I worked for the guy who probably should have been the sous chef at Lamoule there right afterward. Actually, Lucian and I both did. He opened a guy named Alex Troubadour. He opened Plum inside of Deadshot, which is a cocktail bar. So I spent some time over there with him.
Okay.
And then the sous chef before me opened up a restaurant in Cape Cod where his wife was from. And it was a seasonal, or like a, like they were open half of the year.
Yeah.
Seasonal spot out there. So I went out there to help him with their first year, and it was a great restaurant. They did a wonderful job. It was me and Mick Formichella, and his wife's name is Charlotte. And me and Mick would cook 8 courses for 18 people twice a night, and then we'd change that menu every week over there, and it was a pleasure. But it was just the two of us, and we'd serve all the food and stuff. It was a wonderful gig. They were nominated, they were semi-finalists for Best New Restaurant, James Beard stuff this past year, and I'm proud of them. They're crushing over there.
That's very cool.
But I moved back, and I was like kind of reeling a bit. I just spent quite a bit of time out of town, lost touch a little bit, and came back in a pretty rough time of the year to be looking for work. Like right about now, it's not a great time to try to switch jobs or find somewhere else. But I landed at Tartuca with a crushing farm-to-table chef, Jamie Knox, over there. And so that was on Mississippi Street, right across from the 1905. And I was down on my luck, dude. I was out of cash. I fractured a rib. My car was fucked up. I was taking the bus. So I would like walk over from MLK to Tartuca. And one day I'm walking by the 5, and I looked down the alley, and one of the guys I worked with years and years ago was standing in the alley smoking in an apron. A guy named Josh Madrid. He had the big old glasses. He's like a perennial 1905 face. And I was like, oh, you fucking idiot. Like, what are you doing back here, dude? You gotta be kidding me. And him and I had both taken some like brief sojourns back at the spot and like checked it out, you know, every once in a while. But like it was we glossed over it, but like the 1905 was a mess for those 7 years. And they closed in shame in October 2 years ago. Just like unable to work the books, you know, serious allegations,
controversy,
like, shit show,
going on.
And honestly, with legal stuff that I like probably shouldn't say with a mic in my face, sort of stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna save that for the Patreon episode. You guys can shout out. That's gonna be about $20 for that specific one because there is legal information, so you can tune in to that. I'm gonna split the money with John.
Exactly, it'll be great.
It's gonna be a little expensive, but it's gonna be worth it.
It'll pay for the fees. Yeah, nightmare fuel. So to see him back in the space was like jarring. And he's like, "Oh no, we're trying again. You know, we've gotten rid of some of the cancerous components of what's going on here. We're gonna try again, and more honestly, we're gonna sublease the kitchen." And I was like, "All right, good for you. You know, that's awesome. It's cool. You're down the street. I'm just working over there." And then I got a text like a week later. It was like, "Hey, do you know anyone who's interested in subleasing this kitchen?" They'd gone through a couple people and it just like hadn't worked out. And they had some other people on the line, but I threw my hat in the ring, and they knew me from years past, and they liked what I was doing. And I was like, "Hey, I just really don't want to rock the boat at all. Like I kind of think that what was going on here made sense. Other people were coming in with different concepts or ideas, different cuisine, like just like radically different plans. And I was like, I can probably do a really similar thing here. We could keep it pretty casual Italian. I'm like, I'm comfortable with it, you know, and there's some money potentially to spend here if we do a good job at running a casual restaurant that I can kind of be doing some other stuff that I'm into here at the same time." And they bought it. And then they were planning to open 3 weeks later, and they asked me like, how how long would it take? And I was like, to get this kitchen back up and running. And I was like, oh, probably a month. And they were like, okay, well, we have 3 weeks. I'm like, okay, sure. So I put my notice in across the street, and then the whole place was a mess. Like they had just really locked the doors and left, months ago. I'm not really sure, if they were going to reopen ever again. So there was food in the fridges still.
Oh, wow.
The place had been like, people weren't getting paid over there. So there was like the level of care for the space was obviously not very high, because like, why would you, if you weren't getting paid to be there? So it was a mess. And so
the kitchen just not super functional.
Yeah, it's struggling. Yeah. And equipment was down, like a lot of stuff. So we were simultaneously like doing that. And then I was trying to figure out how to not make pizza basically at this place initially. Cause I'd like put pepperonis on pizza, but I'd never done any sort of like design for dough or a system of how dough works in a restaurant or any of that before. I'd done almost no yeasted stuff outside of like brioche and very little pastry at all. So it was horrifying. And like the exact thing you hear for so long, like in your career, is like, just like make sure that you're capable of cooking basically without like needing to necessarily be like using your whole brain. Like that Friday night, if you're only capable of making this delicious whatever product, if you're unbelievably focused on it, you're fucked, because the dishwasher is going to break and then the server's going to call out. Like it's just, you're being pulled so many directions that you should have all this stuff ready to go at the potential, opportunity to be running something.
Yeah.
And so this was the worst case scenario. It was like a core product that I'd never touched, on this thing that I'd signed on and was like, yeah, we can make it work. And the shortest timeline of all time. Like if you get a chance to talk to Scott, who does Scotty's Pizza at any point, he's
on my list, Scott. If you want to come on, you got to open invite, dude. That's top tier pizza.
I do not have his phone number. He crushes, but he talks about opening his space, about how fastidious he was about detail stuff, costing, like just every component of something he'd worked on for a massive amount of time before they even like signed a lease. And so,
and you're coming in with like 3 weeks.
Yeah. And 2 weeks where I'm working a full-time job across the street. So I just was making an insane amount of pizza as fast as I could in there. Just R&Ding like on basically a 12-hour cycle. Like I'd show up in the morning and make something and then go to work and then come back and like deal with that thing and make another thing. And then like just sort of on a clock for a while, and everything was bad. Like every component was just, every pizza I took out of that oven for 3 weeks was putrid, like just not delicious. And I reached out to some friends. I reached out to Lucian and I was like, do you know anybody in town? And he called some people for me. I talked to Scott at Pizza Cat. A different buddy of mine got me in touch with him. He was really helpful. I talked to Matt Sigler, who ran Renata for a while. He sent me a couple texts. But I just was so fucked. And we had a friends and family opening day and I was not ready. And so we made a couple of tweaks and my girlfriend was going to help me with the day. And like right before we started, I'm like, hey, I just got to get through today, dude. We got a couple days off and then we're going to open this thing for real. I'll figure it out maybe in those 5 days. But like today we just got to get through. And we started taking pizzas out of the oven and we'd made some changes, that night. I was like, why not? There's no plan. Nothing is good. So let's try some more stuff. And that first pizza, man, like it looked pretty good. And I was like, well, that's astounding. And I was like, well, it's probably still dry and underdeveloped and whatever, all these things. And my girlfriend like took a slice back there and I was making a bunch of them right before people showed up. And she's like, have you had this? And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like it's really gnarly, but we just got to get through today. Yeah. She's like, no, it's like pretty good. And we've made no changes to that recipe since that day. We moved the oil, the gram quantity was 680 grams and I changed it to 666 because I thought that was silly. Otherwise we've made like no changes to that product since that day.
That's incredible.
It was amazing. Like just in literally the nick of time, like the last one.
So was the big focus locking in the dough situation?
Initially, yeah. Because that was scary. I was like, this is like something that people spend their lives on. Yeah. And I'm trying to imitate some version of that in a city with so much pizza for some reason. Yeah. That like not being excellent is immediately like, yo, you're just doing a horrid job. And if I'm trying to do any other sort of work here, you know, if I'm trying to do any nicer product or stuff that feels more evocative of maybe who I am, that's how I felt at the time, then having a core product that's horrendous is like not going to be the ticket to ride, you know, like this has got to be food related at the least. So that was the biggest part. And then over the last year or so, we've gotten really into everything that happens basically after those calculations. Like after we get this thing into a bulk ferment, it's the way we manage that from that point until it gets on someone's plate. That ended up being equally as critical, if not more important for us long term.
So like, I don't know, like a red sauce that's on the pizza, is that pretty much like the red sauce that's been on from the jump, or is that something that has been tweaked a little bit over time?
No, yeah, that was the same thing. We throw some salt and some cans of tomatoes. Like at some point, I think that we're trying to do this kind of New York thing that is done really quickly and en masse in it's the place it's served, you know, in New York, you know, like there's all this kind of pizza podcast stuff where guys are talking about like temping, you know, or like whatever. The most egregious is people who like filter their water really specifically to mimic this New York thing. What are you doing? And then you like flip over to the pictures of the product on their page and you're like, you know, there's maybe other work to be doing here than like your $200,000 water purification system. But like, you know, some of those smaller things aren't as valuable, but like honestly, the baking of this product was the most valuable thing. We have these beat up gas ovens that are just totally out of vogue. Like everyone you know in town that makes pizza that you like has like an electric Pizza Master, beautiful $40,000 machine that like rebounds temperature immediately. You can control the top and bottom with a digital thing next to it. It gets incredibly hot, like 900 something degrees if you want it to. They're amazing machines. And we have this like basically Thomas the Tank Engine kind of fucking, you know, takes 4 hours to get hot, and it's incredible. Like it's a shit show. So but it also is the thing that the New York pie is baked on. It's these guys, you know, doing these slices in these spaces aren't making, you know, haven't been doing this for generations with a electric microwave looking thing. You know, they've been doing it off of this machine. So, you know, I think the more and more we try to get fancy with it, the less fucking cool it is, you know.
It seems like you must have had like pretty good instincts about what needed to happen to do that on such a short, you know, time span. Like, do you credit that to anything in particular?
Maybe. Yeah, like good cooking is knowing, I think that really good cooking, especially in a short timeline, is knowing exactly what you'd like that final product to be like, with a lot of confidence, and then being like, okay, let me understand the levers that I need to pull to get to that exact point, you know. So it's not necessarily unlike a lot of the other stuff that I was doing, like the year before or whatever. 8 unique dishes a week sort of stuff involved really clear initial composition and then just strong clarity in product, like intonation, like just making sure that everything was dialed. And if you've done that, and if you had a good idea, then it's good, you know? And so that was big for us with pizza. It was like, I just need a really good idea. I need to know exactly what this needs to look like for me. And then I quickly need to figure out these levers. Like, what does salt do? You know, like, why do I add oil? Should I add oil? Like, you know, what are these levers? And honestly, I think that we've learned a lot about our product over time now, like retrospectively. And most of it did seem luck oriented, to be honest. It was like, whoa, I'm actually involved in some sort of latent addition of oil, relatively high level dough thing without really without being like, that's our goal. It was sort of just like happening in our process. And then it was like, oh, that actually is maybe a really critical tool that we were accidentally doing. And that certainly wasn't like intuitive. It was in a bit of a way like accidental, to be honest.
Yeah. It's almost like good that you only had that amount of time. Like it seems like it forced you like a creativity or just like to really like crank up the fire to be like, well, we have 3 weeks.
Big time. Yeah. Constraints are always positive. And the 5 also just has big constraints for the rest of the cooking that we do there as well. And I find those equally as valuable. Like, we seat everyone in one big explosion,
Right.
for a show, which is very non-restaurant. And so a lot of the stuff that we have to do to accommodate that limits our ability to do certain types of cooking that I've done my whole career.
Yeah.
So there is lots and lots of constraints. And that short timeline was one of them. And I think they're all positive. Like at some point when someone starts building the box, even if the box is tiny and tight, if it's a tiny little food truck somewhere, and you can't, Vin didn't get enough flowers on his show here. He's too humble of a guy, but like he is doing all of the work he's doing at Pecan's Deli out of this belly oven that is like the thing you have at your house. And he's baking 2 unique fucking bread products, and now he's baking the buns for the guys next door for some reason.
It's insane.
It's insane, but it's gorgeous because the constraints are so severe, you know? And he literally can't he's an animal. He can do probably so much more, but he's doing like, it seems like he literally can't do anything else but that thing out of that thing just because the constraints are so high. I do like kind of being in the box and then knowing where the walls are and being like, let me fill the bitch up.
Keep you simplified a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is, I don't know. You kind of like touched on it just as far as kind of being in a unique spot in the 1905 where you kind of have this explosion of people being seated because you're dealing with 2 dinner services, 3 with the late show.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So like, I would imagine there's a lot to think about there just because people are there, 90 minutes?
Yeah.
Is that pretty much how it works? It's like you're there, you
show.
get seated a half hour before,
right?
And then the show goes 75.
Yeah, if you're a straight A student, you show up right at the start, then you're there for an hour 45. But most people are there for about an hour and a half.
So like, pizza really makes sense.
Yes.
On that timeline of like doing slices. I would imagine that really, is a big constraint.
Agreed.
Just like, how do I feed this amount of people in a timely fashion so that, by the time the show is over, they're done eating and don't feel like rushed out.
Yes. And you're exactly right. And the other thing worth mentioning about the space we're in right now is that they don't come to eat. Like it's a venue. They're coming to see music.
Yeah.
And lots of different people show up for the product, like for jazz music. There are like maybe who you might imagine, like, premium KMHD donor people, in the West Hills, like a relatively affluent, aristocratic selection of people. But there's also like people coming in who are new PSU jazz students, who are 19 or whatever. And so there's also no reason that someone should eat at this show. Like, I've never in my life been like, oh, I'm going to a show tonight, I'll eat at the venue, ever before, and jazz and comedy, maybe it's like a little bit more of a semi-standard, but like my entire business could be replaced with like a concession stand to like not a ton of pushback over time. You know, there's no real reason you should have full service food at a space like this for this type of product. And, it was important. Pizza was really important to us. And I think the reason we did decide to go for it was that, if we only had, let's say, higher cost premium objects available, we would be missing out on making a connection with a huge amount of the people who are coming here for the product that's here.
Yeah.
And so having a $5 entree was something that even the new ownership at the club initially was like, you probably shouldn't. You're going to see 90 people a night, and most of them aren't going to eat. So you probably shouldn't have a $5 entree option available for them. Like, that's crazy if you're going to make this work. And it was like, well, maybe we absolutely should if a meaningful amount of people coming here, already paid $20 to get inside, and that's a lot,
Yeah.
And they are going to get a beer because beer's sick. And then it's like, well, now you're at 25, and then it's like, well, are you going to buy a $25 pasta at that point? Like, probably not,
Yeah. A slice of pizza makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense for sure. And then, you're exactly right. The pacing of this is pretty intense. And everyone just gets touched in that initial seating primarily because it's all of a sudden there's a guy banging a ride cymbal next to you. It's pretty hard to like order or ask questions about your menu. So most people get immediately, like touched as soon as they walk in there. So we see basically exactly what we're going to do. immediately, and then everyone is on the same timeline. And if you're in the back of the room and you can see everyone else getting food and the show's going, there a couple songs in, you're going to be upset, like you're watching someone else eat.
Yeah.
So it really does need to just explode. And part of that Lemuel experience hits me in the head all the time over there, the short order fine dining thing. Like, we're not doing any fine dining over there, but like a lot of the tricks of the trade involved in making sure that someone's getting something that was labored over and was very carefully made and seasoned really well. Like part of that work can happen before someone shows up.
Yeah.
Basically. And if we know everyone's coming there at once, it's a constraint, but it's also huge. It's like, well, maybe I can pull something out of the oven that doesn't have the ability to sit for very long because I know I can give it to them right now.
Yeah.
So other things have opened up for us in a way.
And you can still like serve like a super elevated salad.
Exactly.
Like
hell
something
yeah.
that, doesn't need to like be hot and something maybe you can put together like pretty quickly.
Yes, absolutely.
And still like maybe give them something elevated. But I think and it seems that like pizza has always kind of been the model aside from like at the 1905, other than those like other people that tried to like do a couple different things.
Right.
But I think I like really appreciate that pizza is kind of the thing there because there's like a level of accessibility to it.
Right.
Of like you are kind of walking into maybe, I don't know, like this nicer jazz club kind of vibe, this seated spot, but like by not putting a bunch of, $20 menu items on there, I feel like you can connect with, like you're saying, like maybe sometimes you're just going to get like a college student rolling in there, and it's not always going to be people that are making, 6-figure incomes that are rolling in there to like watch jazz. So it's kind of nice to like be able to go see the show and get some like banging pizza while I'm like watching the show, or get some pasta, and it just feels like that's like bridging the gap in like a really nice way. Like, remember when Vin was on, we talked about like accessibility a little bit and like making this food that like maybe taps into nostalgia but isn't like something that like someone that's not used to fine dining like wouldn't understand or something.
Oh, totally.
And it feels
agree.
like you kind of like hit all of those things.
Yeah, I feel the same. I hope the same. That's the mission, definitely. And even like, jazz is for some people like something that they're confused about. Like, like there are lots of jazz fans showing up at this thing, but every once in a while you're looking at this crowd of people and they're like, what? What is going on? Yeah. And so some touch point there is important for them. And then especially with if we're trying to gain trust in people over time there and potentially invite them into what we're doing, the pepperoni pizza slice is great because if you read a menu at this place you've never been before and they're like they have foie gras inside of a hen, why is this doesn't make any sense. The guy's next to me is eating a piece of pepperoni pizza, like I don't understand this. And then you have a piece of pizza and you're like, oh, that was great, this is good, maybe that's good. The next time you're there it's like, well, where's that special sheet? Like what are those guys doing back there today? So it's about cultivating trust for us, big time.
Yeah. What do you feel like there's a lot of creativity in what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. The model specifically that we have right now, initially the goal was that we were doing 3 unique specials every week there. And they were informed by sort of that sort of red sauce joint that we imagined the space as, but then also the seasonality, and then where I came from before with a lot of farm to table cooking and some French cooking. So there was a lot of source material, and it was really important, I think, to try to be concise and clear with what we were doing, and it took a while, to be honest. There was a lot of cooking and delicious, fun stuff happening, but it was a creative endeavor to try to figure out how to draw a through line, and make something relatively coherent, and exciting and dynamic and delicious and fairly priced, a lot of the world that I was in before, this wasn't quite true, but you could kind of buy anything you'd like, because you could charge anything you'd like, and so the $45 vegetable entree was an option, and so that's an easy thing to do. You shop the market and you just get as much sort of gorgeous products as you can. You get a fantastic cheese, you do great work, you buy great vinegars, you stock a great pantry, and then you can create a high level, delicious thing full of wonderful local product, but it's at an inaccessible price point. The creative effort for us at the Five has been more about like, well, how can I kind of work commodity sort of pizzeria type stuff into high value product, and then also shop the market, but with a very tight purse, and then how can I kind of blend those two things in a way that makes sense? And it's, in a way that I didn't expect at all, been really highlighting cooking in a way that's shocking to me. Like I thought that some of the best cooking that I would do in my life were at places where I could just kind of swipe the card and get the wonderful stuff in and then do the wonderful work. But when you're like, when I walk into work now and like flip the lights on, like I walk into a stack of number 10 cans of tomatoes up to my throat, and I'm like, fuck, I literally have to cook my way out of this product that is not inherently delicious today. You know, like it requires meaningful work and meaningful traditional cooking and great seasoning and manipulation to get to this point where it's wonderful. And then when I go shop the market, it's almost as if that requires significantly less work. As we're bringing that in, it's like, well, this is the luxury, gorgeous thing that I want to stand on its own and be gorgeous in and of itself without a lot of manipulation. And so if that product is wonderful already and I'm looking to spend some time in the kitchen, we should spend it on this bag of flour that's horrendous. That's where we need to apply the work. And that's been a whole new creative world for me that I just love. And like, I just really can't really perceive myself climbing the price point bracket, ever again. And then just sharing that product with people has been great. I'm like reopening friendships and, communities that I've left behind by working at really inaccessible restaurants. When I started cooking that one gnarly pizzeria by the college, all my buddies were coming by, they were throwing me gummy worms, like put it on the pizza. And, I was exchanging product with my community. And then at some point, regardless of like, if you're doing the job or you like really love what you're doing or fucking whatever, you just get to a point where it's like, oh, I don't see these people anymore. Right. Even on like anniversary nights, there's so much to do in the city. There's so much to eat. They're not coming in here probably. And so this is the first time in a long time where I'm looking at a room, and it's a venue, but I was about to say dining room, but like a room where I'm like, oh, I know these people. Like I exchange stuff. I got a tattoo from a guy of a slice of pizza, Daniel Stewart at Hi-Fi recently, and I traded him some food for the tattoo and stuff. And it's like reopening this world again for me of like, oh, this is when there's a value in what I'm doing in a way that I haven't felt in a while. That's just, excellent.
And during the summer, you can kind of step out onto the patio and do the thing out there.
Oh, God.
I'm assuming that's a little more limited in the season that we're going into, but that also seems like a nice thing where maybe you get to interact with different parts of the community that aren't necessarily going to show up and pay $25 to go to a jazz show, but maybe they want to just hang out on the patio, have a slice of pizza and some beers.
The patio's the best. It's the thing. Like as soon as it starts raining, I do lose touch with people in my life. Like it shrinks back down. But you can't, in general, you really can't pick your audience of who's coming in to eat your food. But somehow, in a way, I really have here. Like it is cost prohibitive to come down and to come in and sit down and see a show. But I know that if someone's in here and they've done that, they've supported something that I perceive has meaningful value. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I have the same values. So even if it's from different walks of life, different socioeconomic brackets, whatever, I just know that like something about them's tuned up right. It's like, I like this too, man. You came out to see Integer on a Thursday. I like that, you know? And that's insane. Like I really have somehow chosen my audience in a way that I didn't know was possible. Yeah.
Tell me about what your relationship was with music and the local music community before you started Scorfana, and what it is like now?
Yeah, it's a dynamic shift, I'll tell you that. I played jazz in high school and then a little bit in college. And when I got to the city, here I was intimidated and struggled and I wasn't putting the work in. I was horrible. I was a bad jazz bass player. And so I started playing some more kind of Americana stuff and was just kind of backline, just doing stuff. And I was not having a good time, and I was getting burned out. And I kind of hung it up around the same time that I got excited about food. And so, I hadn't really made a lot of connections in the city. But that first round around the 1905, I met a lot of young players, people around my same age who were getting some stage time or playing the jam or were kind of subbing gigs. And, 8 years later, those people are headlining or doing shows, or we don't even have the opportunity to book them because they're in Europe and stuff. I've watched a lot of those young players really explode. Just the amount of music that I'm seeing there now and the amount of people that I'm seeing, they're just such a unbelievably welcoming, thoughtful, they've just been so wonderful. Honestly, they're coming back in the doors before shows, banging into the kitchen, being like, "What's up?" And all the cooks know them.
Yeah,
like, "What's up?"
A lot of regular players filing through.
Yeah, big time. Like a couple. Everybody knows their name. We talk about it. We'd have like a little meeting before every day, and we talk about the show. And then like the cooks are like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, no way, George Colligan's here tonight. I love George Colligan."
Yeah.
I'm like, "That's awesome." Like, this is a trip. So jazz, especially, that world is, and we don't get a full slice of jazz music in the city at all. Like, we get a good amount of players, but like, it's pretty hard to play the five. Like, they're really serious about trying to get both sets sold. And so if you're a smaller artist and like you would struggle to fill 90 seats in a room, which is a huge ask.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing for free potentially or lower cost elsewhere in the city, it's pretty hard to get people to pay $25 to see 90 people to do it.
Yeah.
So we do get a selection, and the selection we do see here has been great. And then with my free time, I do see a lot of jazz elsewhere in town, and try to stay involved. Other places. I really love what's going on, what Pablo's doing at Keys. It's just such a fun hang over there all the time. And
yeah.
There's other shit in town happening. And so, jazz for sure. But outside of jazz, not a ton of music in my life. I'm just hearing so much improvisational music.
Yeah.
I used to, in my car, I used to have like every preset KMHD, like a good Portlander, and now I can't do it, kind of like, I'm kind of like coming home from work, like turning it down and then off, and then like, oh damn, I'm so sorry, taking off, like this is just not it today. But yeah, a decent amount of jazz and not enough of other stuff. But I was definitely seeing a lot of some more DIY music and stuff when I moved here. That was a big part of why I love this town. And, but I'm out of touch.
It is cool though that you have an appreciation for jazz and you're working at like the cool jazz club in
it's
town.
Rad.
Yeah. Can you actually like hear the music pretty well in the kitchen too?
Yeah, pretty well. Yep.
So like that is the music of the kitchen is the music that's because you obviously you
nailed it. Yeah.
You can't necessarily be on that like typical back of house shit where maybe like they're banging whatever music they want to listen to.
Yeah,
like you can't have anything that's interfering and you're so close to the stage and that's cool that you can actually like hear it pretty clearly.
Yeah. And too. I mean, sometimes it's mood affecting, which is wild. Like there are some acts that I love who are like, really world renowned players and killing musicians who I like kind of dread. Because I'm like, fuck, it's pretty intense, loud, high energy, and I'm going to be stressed back there. Like, it's going to impact my day. And then, like, if someone's coming in, like, I love Carrie Pulitzer's, like, Thursday, she was doing these bossa things. She's still doing them. They're, like, my favorite. Because I'm like, oh, God, this is going to be a peaceful,
you can be in,
you
like,
can't
a nice
fuck with
flow.
me today.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Exactly. It is the music back there. And you're right. Like, that's such a big thing for cooks a lot, like is fighting over the aux and shit and playing the sound back there. And so, the responsibility disappears there. We do a little bit of it in the morning before people show up, but the music back in the kitchen is that. And then we're really close to the dining room. Like we're not completely gone. And there's a set of double doors right next to where I stand. And most nights, especially because we'll explode for that push and then slow down for a bit. And I usually got 10, 15 minutes, and I'll watch, most of those shows for a bit from those doors, and it's the best seat in the house for me.
Yeah, I could imagine though some of those like more avant-garde nights just fucking breaking your brain back then. You're like, what am I doing back here? I don't.
Somehow the more experimental sound like is salve. Like I do really enjoy that. I think that works pretty well for my workflow. But then like when it's really, when it's really banging, I don't know. There are other days back there where I struggle. Like there are names. I'm not going to say them, but there are people that are like rolling up. I'm like, wow,
that'll be on the Patreon episode as well.
Exactly. That's right after the tell-all. Yeah, exactly.
Hell yeah, dude. That's awesome. I love that you're like, doing those slice specials named after some of the local musicians.
Awesome.
I had that Peter Knudsen slice recently. It's pretty fucking banging.
They all rip. And like it's probably obvious to you. You hang out with musicians all the time, but like they all rip. They all just have really fundamentally great ideas. Part of it initially was like, oh no, like what if someone has a shit idea and then we have to serve that for a month? You know, like they nominate each other. So like, Peter just nominated somebody else, and like, and so I was anxious initially, like, fuck, what if they're all gonna do weird stuff? We gotta like cancel the program. Everyone rips. Everyone's stuff has been like just obscenely delicious and fantastic. And they just rip awesome, out of there. They sell really well. People love them. Yeah. It's a good time.
It's a cool way to celebrate the community.
Big time.
Yeah.
Peter was making that pie with us, the first one back there, and he's like tossing it and shit. He's like, I've never been back here. We're like, really? That's crazy. It was awesome.
So rad, dude.
Great guy.
Yeah, man. You're doing a thing in a very somehow, I know that people do not recognize Portland necessarily as like a pizza city, but I think we are like top notch contender as somebody that's like loves pizza. There's at least five places that I think are fucking insanely good, just like slices, like throwing out like not even like including a place like Lovely's or like No Saint,
right?
But like just places that do banging slices. There's something, Scotty's you mentioned, like love Baby Doll, like
Same.
just for like a solid.
I've spent more money at Baby Doll than probably any other restaurant in Portland, Oregon by now.
Yeah. I'm probably up there, but yeah, dude, your fucking pizza ride's right there. Like it's really fucking good pizza. It's not just like I look forward to having the pizza. It's not just like, oh cool, like there's also pizza here, and it's like some mid slice or something. It's like, no, this is great pizza, dude.
That means a lot, dude. Yeah, our goal initially was top third. That was the plan. Was like, there's just no way you break in to this astounding group of people doing this job. So we just need to be in that was good section, of the situation. And you're right, it's a huge saturated world, and like I swear to God, every week I see another thing going on. Small people in different places, similar kind of pop-up arrangements. Like for a while I was keeping up and trying new stuff and trying to be hip, and I'm out of control. There's just like there's so much happening here, and it's fantastic. We are a pizza city.
Yeah, dude. It's so rad. But your dough and your sauce is so good, and just like hits on the things that I like about pizza. Like I just really don't like when I can taste like some sort of sweetness in the sauce or some shit, like someone's clearly putting sugar in the dough or the sauce, and I'm just like, and I've worked at some pizza places, so I know like that's like a thing, and it's like a thing I don't understand, like why it's happening. I'm just like, what the fuck are we doing?
Totally.
You're just ruining this thing.
Yeah, I love what we do too, and there's so many specific other places doing, they all got their own little concoction and stuff, and everyone's doing stuff, and it's all I want to eat pizza all the time. Yeah, I've said it about jazz. Like I'm still listening to jazz on days off. I'm still eating pizza on days off. Like I'm kind of a two-note human being at this point. I got pizza the day off jazz today. I'm thinking about both those things. Yeah. I'm like, is the CMG Fest thing still happening? And like, can I go to Baby Doll first? Is like something I'm actually thinking about this evening. Yeah,
very very spoiled by pizza, and And I feel like it is, you know, something you can be pretty dynamic with. Like, you can always be coming up with a new style or that slice of the week, or, you know, like, it's something you can really experiment with toppings and sauces and cheeses to, like, kind of change up the game. Have you always, like, really appreciated, like, how hands-on pizza is? Like, I know that, like, cooking in general is, like, pretty hands-on, like, whether you're doing the prep work, but, like, you know, with pizza, you're, like, actually touching the dough, and you're, like, you're putting these toppings on by hand. You're not, like, you're not, like, adding stuff to a pan.
Right.
And there's, like, that barrier there. Like, does that, like, register to you differently than other cooking that you've done in the past?
Yeah, I mean, you might be surprised about what kind of taking some fillets off of a fish is like. You know, you're definitely in that bitch.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
There have been days in the halibut where, like, you know, it's like, actually, I have to shave my beard. Maybe there's beard in the fish today, you know, like, up in the thing. But you're right, absolutely. It is really tactile, and cooking is such a multi-sensory thing that touch exists in lots of different cooking environments, like you know, poking and prodding and whatever. But this one is, for sure, stretching the dough ball big time. Opening and then stretching for us is really tactile and fun. And coming home with, like, some flour all over you and stuff is wonderful. The fermentation process is really excellent as well. That sort of cracking the lid on this, we like tabletop room temp ferment, which is pretty volatile but exciting. And so, like, when we crack the thing and we've done a good job, the smell is just wild. Like, it smells like kind of walking by Widmere, you know. It's just like this big bit of gorgeous fermentation thing. That's also pretty good. It is a super sensory thing to cook. And it's got lots of rewards if you're looking for them.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, man.
John, this has been so great to talk to you about Scorfana.
Hell yeah.
And, like, very inspired by what you've done over there. And, like, I do feel like people talk about the pizza as much as, like, the music happening there. Like, and when I'm thinking about going to the 1905 for a show, I'm kind of like, I'm stoked about the music, but I am also stoked that I'm going to get pizza, like, when I go there, you know? And, like, I can hang out and enjoy a really good slice and some killer food, like, while I enjoy some really great art as well. Like, there's very few of those spaces, you know? Like, Mississippi pizza is, like, a different version of that, you know? Yeah. Where it's like, I'm going to the 1905 and it's very much like this seated dinner service, as well as, like, it's like a part of the show to me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I appreciate it. It's a wonderful thing. I feel really fortunate to be doing it right now, and you know, it's just great. I'm basically just getting free tickets to the thing I want to see all the time. Yeah, and I get to eat the thing that I want to eat all the time. So I love when other people have the same opinion. You know?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, man.
Is there? I don't know. How you feeling? Like, is there anything we didn't touch upon that you feel like you need or want to mention before we sail this thing out?
No, man. I mean, Tuna Boy, just I gotta make sure you know, Tuna Boy is remarkable food coverage.
Thank you.
It's great.
I appreciate it.
Somebody commented one point, like, reverse jump scare Tuna Boy intro under your thing. And I was like, I feel exactly the same. Like, whenever Tuna Boy back in action shit pops up, I'm like, this guy's about to hit me to a sandwich I've absolutely never heard of at a place that I probably go to all the time. It's fantastic food media in a place of really garbage food media, man. It is a nice product.
Very much appreciate that. And shout out to Alexis Mahler, another banging musician. She's the one that made that comment about the reverse
awesome
jump scare.
That's right.
So shout out to her.
Yeah, killing. Yeah, you're doing a great job. I just want to make sure you know.
I appreciate that. It's it's a lot of fun, and, like, just a very goofy thing. It's fun to, like, lean into something.
Yeah, well, we'll put a tuna sandwich on sometime.
So dumb and goofy. Yeah, hey, anytime, you know, we do a little Tuna Boy pop up. You know, I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
The tuna pizza probably not in the docket anytime soon.
That's
but,
we don't need to do that. But yeah, man, I'm very excited that we got to chop it up in this way.
Same.
And Yeah, man. Just I don't know. I was telling you that I had like a weird 24 hours, and I was feeling a little sleep deprived, and I was just like, "Am I gonna do this thing with John today?" But thank you for helping me show up today. It was for good reason. Like I really enjoyed this conversation very much, and it's always like very inspiring to me to like get to hear like how like just to get to hear about someone's path to where they're at, and like especially people that are doing cool things, and it just it's very inspiring, and it fills the cup, you know.
Yes, sir. I get that, man.
For sure. So
Absolutely.
John, we end every episode of the podcast with the guest saying the tagline for the show, which is "It's a program." It means nothing. It's just the way my grandfather says program. I don't know why he does it, but if we get the Scorfana, it's a program. It's the only proper way we can say it out. So one time I'll ask you to look into that camera right there on the desk. You can hit it whenever you like.
It's a program.
He nailed it, everybody. That's John. Scorfana is the spot. It's inside the 1905. Sometimes I do other little pop-ups. If it's nice weather, you can see them on the patio. It's not going to be nice weather for the foreseeable future. So you're going to have to go get some tickets to see some music at the 1905. You can enjoy some of this banging pizza that we've been talking about. And then pasta service. Is that strictly a Sunday thing?
No, we got a full menu every night of the week there. We also do pizza to go. Go to scorfana.com.
Okay.
I got the rights. Go to scorfana.com.
Hell yeah.
Get a pizza to go. You can eat it at your house with your pants off.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I don't usually ask like bands like how they got names, because it's usually like lame stories a lot of the time. But like, yeah, I'll go ahead and ask, where did the Scorfana thing come from?
I was doing like a lot of pop-up stuff in the city, like kind of supper club shit on my own. And they were getting kind of out of hand, but I would change the name every time. And then I posted a menu for a pop-up that didn't end up happening because one of the courses had cocaine on it. Like it was going to be served. It was raw meat and a glass of Riesling and a line of cocaine. And Instagram flagged it and was like, "You're selling drugs." And good for the motherfuckers at Instagram, because they were right. I was selling drugs on the internet. They were exactly right. But the account got deleted, so I needed to do something to get like an account that like it was my business at the time. So I had to like do something new. And so I wanted to serve like fried fish. And so I was doing some fried fish stuff at a food truck, and I was looking for a name, and so I just put like we were frying rockfish, so I put rockfish into Google Translate Italian, and like Scorfano came up, and I threw an A on that thing, you know.
Hell yeah!
And you know, that's where we're at now.
And that's how he named his band. All right, man. That's the thing. That's the Jelly Jams. We'll catch you on the flip side. Portland. All the links will be in the episode notes, so you can keep up with this dude and keep up with the 1905. And I highly recommend you going to support both of those establishments. And that's the thing. Thanks for tuning in, John. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much fun.
Appreciate it.
Hell yeah.
Nice work.
You too.
That was a pleasure. Good work for